Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign, and today we're going to tackle a very important topic when it comes to mold, and that is how to clean your home after mold damage. Now, mold can be a very serious issue for both the health of your body and kind of structure of your home, and it can also be something that's very stressful to deal with and often very expensive to deal with in the aftermath of a remediation. I'm going to take you through my best tips for cleaning a house after it's experienced any kind of mold damage, mold contamination, and provide some of the best products that I know that are on the market today when it comes to cleaning up mold and really sanitizing in a non-toxic and effective way. This video is sponsored by Microbalance Health Products, who provide really effective solutions for disinfecting mold in your home and even managing mold in your body in kind of a more homeopathic way. So I'll touch more on that later. Let's jump in. So the first step to managing a home that's experienced mold really is to make sure that you've effectively dealt with the source of the mold contamination in the first place. None of this is going to matter if you haven't actually remediated the spot that's been moldy or dealt with the water damage. You really do have to do something to it. Whether you hire people or you're doing it yourself is kind of up to you, but something probably will need to be done in your house before you move on to the decontamination step. This just ensures that you're not having future mold growth or, doing all this work to clean a space and then the mold's just coming right back. You want to really address the root issue. But say you've done that, hired a remediator, or you've dealt with the water damage, you're now going to want to move on to sanitizing the space. Let's just start here with the truth. The truth is that mold contamination does happen. I think there's a space in social media that's trying to kind of pretend that it doesn't exist, and it definitely does exist. Mold contamination happens. This is why you see mold remediators showing up to your house in hazmat suits and masks, and that's because they don't want to transfer any of that mold or bacteria back to their own spaces. They're going to want to be able to take that off after they leave, and mold can get on clothing and it can get on people, and so they're actually trying to protect themselves. It says something about the nature of mold. This is also why they will seal off spaces with negative pressure to make sure that really no other areas of the house get super affected when they go in to kind of tear up a space that's particularly moldy. But another side truth to that is that you are never going to find a space that is entirely mold free. And I know people on the internet might come after me for saying that, but there really isn't a way to ever have a mold free space. In nature, mold spores exist. So you're never going to find a completely mold free space unless you get into a completely bacteria free space. And in that case, you might also want to consider the fact that mold could be in your body and that you are made of microorganisms. So that's probably not going to actually ever happen. And stressing out about every single mold spore is not good for your mental health, and it can be very overwhelming, quite frankly. So the keys I like to follow when it comes to decontaminating space is if it's possible to wash it, then I would wash it. If it's not possible to wash it, then I would wipe it. And if it's not possible to wipe it, then I would fog it. And I mentioned here on my channel at one point about using ozone, being very careful when you're in the space with ozone, but using it temporarily to be able to disinfect a space. There's also other kinds of alternatives you can use for disinfecting spaces, but I know some people will diffuse tea tree essential oil. There's a lot of different things, but ultimately if you get to the fog it state and the material is porous, so that means things like books or carpeting or couch cushions or mattresses, chairs that are made of cloth, porous materials, things that cannot be wiped. Even an HVAC system maybe has some wood in it that would be considered like a porous space that cannot necessarily be wiped, and it kind of would make it to the fog it state. You may want to consider replacing it. So in that case, you would completely throw that item away and replace it with something that is new, not used in this case. Now that's just an option, and this step is really dependent on a couple of things. The first is your mental capacity to part with that item. So some people have really memorable items that they do not want to give up, or they're just not in a space mentally where they can conceive of uprooting some of these things like an HVAC system or carpeting, things like that. And your financial capacity to really replace that item if in fact you did need that item. I know many people who have decontaminated spaces and they will actually completely get rid of everything. They'll get rid of clothing, they will get rid of every single possible porous item in their house, maybe except for like dishware and things that very obviously could be wiped or cleaned off or sanitized. Like they'll get rid of all the furniture. Sometimes I've seen people get rid of cars because of this. That being said, that is actually not what I'm necessarily advocating for here. What I find is that when you actually address the root issue, if you're actually addressing why the mold is there in the first place, and then you focus on some intentional ways of cleaning the house and cleaning the air, you can really get to a place where a space is functional, even if it has had some mold in it before. And some people might disagree with me on that, but I am not the type that's going to move houses, move spaces every single time I find out that there's any bit of mold in a place, because honestly, the reality of the fact that like the structural pieces of buildings can have mold in them, that new builds can even have mold in them. There's just like so many different factors. Honestly, it's really going to be hard to find a space that isn't mold free. And the expense of like testing every single place that you move into before you ever move into that, I just personally don't want to go down that road. And I don't necessarily think you always have to. Maybe if you're extremely sensitive, but honestly, even in that case, like I do think there's always a way to make do with what you have. So that's my bit of hope for this moment. I also want to caveat here that there's a difference between having your house be completely flooded and all the items were just sitting in there, growing mold on them for weeks, if not months. This happens in hurricane zones and flood zones. It can be pretty bad. And in that case, I honestly probably would just toss everything versus, items that were in a space that had water damage or, a bathroom that wasn't built properly and, you need to kind of gut it. I think those two spaces can be treated differently, and you're going to need to use a lot of your own discernment and where do you feel peace to kind of navigate which direction you should take with this. At the end of the day, I would really encourage you to not let fear be the leader. That can lead to a lot of stress in your body that can actually exacerbate the feeling of experiencing mold toxicity. Putting your body in a state of chronic fight or flight is never going to be conducive to healing. So whatever decision you choose to do, I would really recommend honestly evaluating your heart and your mind, asking for help in making the decision. Make sure that you're not doing it out of a place of fear. And this is where Microbalance Health Products comes in. They are the sponsor of today's video, and I'm so excited to introduce them to you. For over 15 years, Microbalance Health Products have provided proven non-toxic products, homeopathic formulations, and professional-grade supplements that are designed to help you heal. Whether it's in your home or your body, their goal is to really help give you resources needed to fight and combat mold and ultimately heal from the effects of mold in your system. They recognize that mold illness can take on many different forms with many different kinds of symptoms, and they are committed to providing products that address the needs of more sensitive individuals when it comes to the mold and the mycotoxin effects in the body. I love their products because they really address the 3 areas of contamination, which we're going to go through here. So you're really able to thoroughly disinfect a home, and that is air, surfaces, and washables. So if you can kind of compartmentalize your house into 3 different kinds of subcategories, air, surfaces, and washables, they have products formulated for each of these spaces so that you can really be supported in fully decontaminating a house when you've experienced mold. So for the air, they have EC3 air purification candles, and I will show you what it is right here. It's a regular candle, lead-free wick with a proprietary citrus botanical blend infused within it so that is getting diffused throughout the home when you are actually lighting it. This is meant to reduce mold and mycotoxins in the air, and burning that candle in an area has actually been proven. You can see there are test plates online to decrease the amount of spores in the air to dramatically lower the health risk of that space. For surfaces, they have the EC3 mold solution concentrate, which is basically a concentrate cleaning solution that you can dilute and use as a surface sprayer of any areas that have been contaminated. They also have these EC3 wipes, which kind of function in a similar way. Again, it's with the same citrus seed extracts that are used to kill mold and mycotoxins. And I love these wipes because they can be used in the bathroom, kind of like a Clorox replacement, to just easily decontaminate mold, because I know bathrooms can be a big spot for mold contamination. You can even use the concentrate on floors. So this is awesome for when you do an ozone treatment, like I've recommended in other videos, to safely do ozone in an area, let it completely air out. You're going to be weighing down mold to the ground. And then, like I said, you can wipe it up afterwards. This would be a great product to wipe surfaces with afterwards, especially like floors and countertops where you're you're using food and you're walking on. So I love that they have something for that. And then for washables, they've got this laundry additive, which is basically a non-toxic laundry solution that you can just add in with your normal detergent. And again, this blend of different oils will actually help to decontaminate anything that you need to wash. So your clothing, any bedding. This was huge for us when we did our mold remediation, especially because right before we did our remediation, we had been living in like 6 different places for a span of like 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And I really wanted to make sure that everything that came from those places plus our storage unit, which smelled a little musty, if I'm going to be honest, went through the washer in the EC3 detergent so that everything was like completely clean and decontaminated coming into the house after we had spent so much money on our mold remediation, which if you didn't catch that video, I will link it above. But I go through a real breakdown of the costs of doing mold remediation, but I really didn't want to waste my money. So I used this on all my clothes coming in to our house, clothing, bedding, blankets, things of that sort, because these citrus seed extracts actually have proven antibacterial and antifungal properties. So it was really effective on mold. And honestly, you guys, it left it smelling really good. A lot of non-toxic detergents don't actually smell like anything, and this one leaves it smelling like that nice citrus smell. So I hope this video is helpful. I have a discount code for Microbalance Health products in the description box below. They are giving Wholeness Campaign listeners a 10% off coupon to anything on their site, so be sure to check out their website. I will have it all linked in the description box below. And if you got any value out of this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It is my passion to walk alongside people as they heal and grow. It inspires me and hopefully brings encouragement to you. Thanks for watching.